relatability is big, right? That's something that I was able to kind of see if I trusted a coach or not. Track record, has he done it? What has he done? I mean, this is the way that I looked at it, man. It's tough for me. It is tough for me to say, hey, I'm going to take batting advice from an electrician, right? I'm not going to take hitting advice from an electrician, a dude that does this part time during the week and is an assistant JV, hitting coach. I'm not. He's an electrician. Why would I take hitting advice from an electrician?
Arteaga drives one to center. Miller hustling over. Diving catch by Ian Miller. A great catch.
3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the 9-Hole Podcast. My name is Ian Miller. I hope everybody's doing all right. Recently, I've been able to get a few college Division I coaches on talking about a little bit of what makes their program tick, what their coaching philosophies are like, what they're looking for in a recruit academically, physically, certain characteristics, traits, all that stuff. Basically, trying to provide some sort of information to the next generation of 9-hole hitters like myself, right? Like I was when I was in the 9-hole hitter underdog shoes. So for those of you who don't know, my name is Ian Miller. I was a ex Major League Baseball player. I was a college walk on. So in high school, I was underdeveloped. I was just a little pipsqueak that could run quick. And that was about it, man. So I ended up, the stars kind of ended up aligning, had to do a lot of things right, had to do a lot of things different than a lot of people. And the way that I kind of went about my business was a little bit different than everybody else, right? That's kind of what I'm trying to portray here with the 9-Hole Podcast. That's what I'm trying to get these college coaches, the top college coaches, to kind of say and portray to who's ever's listening, right? If it's high school baseball coaches, if it is college athletes, if it's high school players, youth coaches, whatever it is, these principles are kind of industry wide, and I was able to implement these and use these to my advantage, and this was kind of some of the things that resonated with me when we had these college coaches on. So a team in the College World Series this past year, Oral Roberts University, the coach was on, just talking about the way his players play. East Carolina, Cliff Godwin, he was on here saying if you don't want to work, don't come to East Carolina. Like these types of things are maybe not talked about enough, but these sorts of topics are relevant to at least my story, hoping to relate it to you guys and to kind of be able to say, look, these are the things that work for me. These are the people that I would listen to. There's a couple other topics I wanted to touch on. When it comes to coaching, these coaches that are on have successful track records. 10 plus years coaching for a Division I program with 700 win percentage, 600 win percentage. Stanford, Arizona, East Carolina, Campbell, Oral Roberts University, Duke. Chris Pollard was on here. We just talked to Jamie Moyer, who was a 25-year Major League veteran, right? 25 seasons. And we're about to talk to somebody this week from the Texas Rangers coaching staff, somebody who just won a World Series, right? So all of these topics are kind of they're going to kind of intertwine, and they're all kind of related, right? They're all kind of preaching the same thing. So that's just kind of, I just wanted to outline it, maybe touch on it, reiterate some things related to my story, hopefully able to portray it, maybe dumb it down a little bit, water it down, for athletes that, hey man, I was in your position. Like, I understand it. Maybe this is kind of how you're feeling. Like, dude, I get it. So trust and leadership is going to be something that I'll touch on here, man. So maybe that the dichotomy is a good word. I keep using it. Don't fully understand what it means, but like the relationship between a head coach and an assistant coach, what's that supposed to look like? Because there was one of my guys came into a problem this week where an assistant coach came in. He was a new hire, and he was kind of overstepping the boundaries of what like the head guy, the manager, the head coach wanted to have things done and run. And I mean, that's a bad look, right? So maybe what does that look like And how can you like trust a coach, right? Maybe in what he's teaching, what the track record is. We're gonna touch on that, man. Um, and yeah, I really wanted to hit on like recap, man, what these coaches were talking about. So like I said, we had Stanford, Arizona. I'm not gonna hit on them again, but they talked about the intensity of their practice. So they are practicing to fail. They are practicing to challenge. The head coaches of these programs come on and they say, "Hey, we're not just like going through practice, doing feel good BP and feeling sexy and hitting some fucking cage dingers, in the winter and that's it. Like these guys are challenging, their players, their athletes. These guys are the coaches of some of the top 10, 20 programs in the country, ranking wise, in their stats and their outcomes, all that stuff. It's like, man, how do they get there? How do you get to that spot? That's especially if you're maybe just an average baseball player or an average dude with average baseball capabilities, whatever it is. Man, challenge yourself in practice. So how are you going to continuously get better if you're just feeling good in practice all the time? Man, bump the machine up to 100. Challenge yourself. Like choke up with 2 strikes. What does that look like? I mean, I don't know. But your coaches and your practice should be challenging you in order to kind of get the most out of you, to get the best out of you, if that makes sense, right? You're not. What's the fucking saying, dude? Calm seas never made a skilled sailor. I think that's what it is. Man, I probably butchered it, but whatever. It's like, man, if you're going to be in that comfortable zone in practice, dude, how are you going to like find out what you're made of? How are you going to be able to bear down? How are you going to be able to rise up? I think the challenging practice is huge. Obviously, like if you surround yourself with better players, dude, you're going to rise up to their level. Think about that in a practice sense too. If you're going to stay the same and like do normal practice, you're going to end up with those normal results, man. Challenge yourself in practice. They're saying the intensity and the difficulty of their practice is what separates them in work ethic and preparation, right? So I'm in Cleveland and it's fucking 32 degrees and it's snowing outside. And dude, how would I be able to practice? I mean, how would I be able to separate myself right now if I were, chasing the baseball dream and grinding, getting ready for a baseball season in 3 to 4 months? Like my practice would need to be different than somebody else's if I wanted to get a better or different result. That's challenging, man. So it's like if I am going to go to the cage for 3 hours and my counterpart, my competition, the dude I'm trying to beat out is going to go to the cage for 3 hours. We're going to go to the cage for the same amount of time and put in the same amount of effort. If I'm hitting on 70 miles an hour on my machine for 3 hours and I'm fucking turning that around and I'm grinding and I'm getting better and I'm getting something out of it, and he's going at 3 hours at 60 miles an hour, 10 mile an hour difference. Like, dude, my work is harder. My reps are probably, eventually over time going to be better. I'm going to challenge myself more. I'm going to rise up. I'm going to acquire better skill. At least that's the way I thought about it. That's the way I went about it. That's what these coaches of these top Division I college baseball programs are preaching. So that's something that's a huge takeaway. Obviously, dude, I have not posted all of these Division I college coach interviews yet, man. That's something that I'm going to space out a little bit. That I think that's going to be beneficial. Be able to plug in some things in between there to spice up the content, keep it sexy. Anyway, yeah, the difficulty of practice is big, man. Difficulty of practice is big. That's something that I wanted to start off with and reiterate. Number 2 is handling failure, which is an inevitable thing that you're going to have to go through. This is another big one that I didn't learn until I went to college. So think about it: you're in high school or you're in college, whatever it is. You're the big fish in your little pond. So you're turning around your competition. Everybody in your league knows you. Or if you're just an average athlete, you're a 9-hole hitter. Man, you're fitting in. You're trying to grind. You're trying to separate. Like whatever that is, man. Um, you've probably dealt with a little bit of a slump, maybe a little bit of failure, but when you get to that next level, regardless of what the next level is, like, dude, you're going to go through a lot of adversity and you're going to go through a lot of failure. So whether that's Division I, II, III, junior college, fucking whatever it is, you go to the professional, like minor leagues, major leagues, whatever it is, dude. Those failures, those struggles, those challenges are going to be a lot different than what you're used to wherever you're coming from. Think about it: you're in high school, dude. You're going to make the jump to college, away from home, away from mommy and daddy. Like, okay, Yeah, but you've never probably struggled or gone through any type of adversity or challenges like that before, right? Being able to handle failure, and go through those type of things are going to be huge, instrumental to your success. Something that these guys it's a common theme, right? These guys are looking for guys that they think are going to be able to handle failure. So they're saying if they come and recruit you, or if they come up and show, these coaches show up or these programs show up to your games, they want to see how you fail. They want to see how you react to going 0 for 3 with 3 punchies. They want to see how you react to a bad call. That's literally what they're saying. That's literally what they're saying. I'm just summing it up and kind of spitballing it back to you guys. They want to see that. And whatever failure you've experienced up until this point, when you go to the next level, it's going to be exponential. It's going to be greater. You have not failed or struggled at that level yet. So you need to be able to be, you have to be able to take that on, dude. So how are you going to do that? I mean, we talk about mentality a lot on here, mindset, being mentally strong, being in the moment, all that stuff, like all the cliche sayings, man. That goes a lot into it. But dude, the handling failure, they want to see, dude, when shit is not going your way, how do you handle yourself? That's big. Dude, they hit on that a lot. Routine preparation. This is the fourth thing that all of these college coaches seem to say is important to the success, and the positive outcomes of their student athletes, their teams, their college World Series teams, their regional teams, their conference championship teams. They say the routine and the preparation that they put in every day, it is scheduled, it is disciplined, it has intent, all of it, right? So they're not just going through the fucking motions. There is a routine. These individual players at these big time organizations are finding out what works for them, right? Through trial and error, through difficulty in practice. How do you recover? What does my sleep look like? Do I need 9 hours? Do I need 8 hours? Am I cool on 6.5? What are the benefits of that? I mean, they talk about that. They talk about having a routine to kind of fall back on, not become complacent in, but something to rely on. And man, the discipline helps you. It kind of pushes you. And it is easier to stay on track and kind of plug along when shit's not going your way, dude. So that's another thing that can help you with handling failure is a routine and the preparation. So if dude, you are on a 2 weekend slump, two separate road trips, or you're on it's been a week of games and you haven't gotten a hit, or you're 0 for 15, 0 for 20, whatever it is, dude. I've been there. That sucks. But how are you going to get out of it? How are you going to get out of it? Do you prepare differently? You're 0 for 20. Is your routine and your preparation, you're saying, oh shit, you're pressing the eject button and you're going back to the drawing board, got to do a new stance, got to do a different cage routine, all this. Dude, if you start breaking it down like that and freaking out, the season's over and it spirals quick. I've had seasons ruined because of that. That's terrible, man. What's the routine? What's the preparation? These college coaches are talking about it. They're talking about that's the key to success. I ask them what their routines are, how they get ready for their games. Routine's important, whether you're a coach or if you're a player, dude. You build a routine that is right for you and that gets you ready to play and have your mind ready every pitch. From the first pitch. That's big. They reiterated that. They all touched on it. That's a big thing. That's a big thing. If you don't have a routine, if you're not preparing, not the same way all the time, but if you're not preparing with intent, if you don't have some sort of routine, in my opinion, that's detrimental to your success. And I got a lot out of having my routine, and I prepared a certain way, and it really helped. Really helped. Preparation. I mean, it can be athletically, it could be physically, mentally, whatever it is. I knock on wood, I'm fucking done playing now, but I really didn't deal with a lot of injuries throughout my career. So I practiced a certain way. I prepared a certain way. Whether it was I showed up early to do a workout or if I took my stretching serious, but dude, I had a hammy. I had a hammy one year and I had a lower back the other year. Whatever it is, I played for 9 years and 3 years in college. I really didn't get hurt much. I took care of myself. I knew all my shit, right? So like I just said, I practiced what I preached. I knew what 8 hours did versus 9 hours for me. I knew if I got past that 8.5 hour, too much sleep mark during the season, I started feeling sluggish and dude, oversleeping is a real thing. If you haven't felt that on game day yet, you will. Undersleeping is the same thing. You can feel groggy as fuck, just like oversleeping, man. So through trials and tribulations and trial and effort and failure and shit, you will be able to develop a routine. But without that failure, dude, you're going to stay in that medium gray zone where you're not getting better. You're not challenging yourself, right? So they talk about it in practice, challenge yourself in practice. And with that, you're going to be able to like implement and come up and create a routine that works for you, that gets you ready to play from pitch number one. That's big. That's big. They hit on it, dude. So it's not like I'm just making it up. Um, yeah, Cliff Godwin. Don't come to ECU if you're not willing to work, dude. So think about that. Think about that. So you're coming in from high school, and you're thinking you're just going to be a freshman starter, and you're used to working hard, but you're really not. You're talented and stuff, dude. Any trials and tribulations that you got before, when you get here, you better be ready to work, and you better be able to like handle failure. That's a just listening to that dude talk. I mean, that's a dude that I'm like, man, I would have loved to have played for that guy, right? So that kind of sums up. These are like the top four takeaways, kind of one, two, three, four. Yeah, that I took away from these guys. It's like, man, they all work. The difference between work ethic between these top programs and maybe something else, dude. I'm remembering back to when I was in college and like, dude, I worked hard, right? But there weren't necessarily like structured practices and workouts too insane in place. Thinking back, there was like, man, I really challenged? Like, I don't know. Or did I get my work in on the side? Aside from everybody else, I was kind of like obsessed, right? A lot of my challenging work came from on my own, challenging myself, right? That was the separator for me. I think that's obviously what helped me stand out. But it sounds like the coaches at these big time schools are working the shit out of their guys. They are challenging them. They're not just doing like feel good practice, man. They're getting their asses kicked. What was it? The Stanford coach, dude. The Stanford coach, the head coach, was saying like they're failing 60% of the time, like 40 to 50% success rate in the cage, before they go out to practice. So they're getting their asses kicked before they go out to practice. I mean, look at the seasons that they've had, right? That's a team. That's a team. So the way they practice, they fail and they challenge themselves in practice. That's a big one. Step your game up. Step your fucking game up. Handling failure is an inevitable thing that you're gonna have to go through. That's takeaway number two. You're gonna fail. Like whatever pond you're jumping out of as a fish, dude, and going into the college pond or the professional pond, like, dude, you're just going to fit in. You're going to fit in for a little bit and you're going to have to deal with failure and you're going to have to rise up. Like, that's what it is. That's what it is. You can be a full ride dude or a walk on dude. But like when you step on the field, you're still going to have to fucking prove it, regardless of what kind of scholarship you got. So that's kind of I was able to separate myself because I took that personally. I'm like, dude, I don't have any scholarship money and this dweeb has a full ride. I'm going to embarrass you. I'm just going to embarrass you. So that's what it was. I took that personal. I was able to like use that kind of maybe as fuel, right? So like handling failure and difficulty of practice are big. Number one and two, routine preparation. You got to figure out what works for you. You got to figure out what gets your body, your mind, and just everything ready for that first pitch. If you're a professional 7:05, or if you're at college, I mean, the shit's always different, whatever it is. And that, yeah, routine preparation are big. Don't come to ECU. Yeah, that's crazy. Next, we were talking about trust and leadership. We've been talking about it, with these college coaches, with some of the guys that I talked to outside of here. Like how, man, there's so many coaches and so many shapes and sizes, different position coaches, assistant coaches, associate head coaches. Man, there's different titles, different roles, whatever it is, different experiences, different people. Man, how can you trust a coach? And what is that supposed to look like relationship wise? So like what is that supposed to look like? Am I supposed to be like friendly with my coach? Am I supposed to be like texty with my coach? Am I not? Am I just supposed to say, "Oh, what's up, dude?" And that's it? Am I supposed to call him sir? Like, I mean, dude, obviously, it's different depending on where you're at. It's different depending on who you are, and what the relationship is. Obviously, as I jumped around from level to level, the farther that I got up through the ranks, when I'm young, it's sir and coach. The and then you get to college, and then it's coach, or call them by their first name. When you're in pro ball, it's their first name, and then when you're in the big leagues, it's you call them anything other than first name or a nickname or whatever it is. Like you usually, that's just how it goes, right? It's a little bit more proper, I guess, the younger you are. But like, how do you know if you can trust a coach, and what's that supposed to look like, man? So like trust for me, trying to relate that, obviously there are a whole bunch of different coaches. Your relationship's going to be different, and the success that you're going to have with them and the outcome you're going to have is going to be different depending on the whole bunch of different things, man. That's crazy. Um, but what is trust, right? How can I trust a coach? How can I feel like I trust a coach? So if you could, I feel like for me, if I was able to relate to a coach, relatability, if I see that he was maybe the same type of player and he had some sort of success, or if he thought the same way as me, or if he was as driven or as motivated as me, right, or was as hungry and did something that I commended or thought was admirable, whatever it was, man. If I kind of looked up to him, or if I could relate to him, that was something for me I was able to kind of, build that trust with and be like, okay, that guy did that. He was kind of like that, same type of player as me. We're, same type of values, whatever it is. Um, Relatability is big, right? That's something that I was able to kind of see if I trusted a coach or not. Track record, has he done it? What has he done? I mean, this is the way that I looked at it, man. It's tough for me. It is tough for me to say, hey, I'm going to take batting advice from an electrician, right? I'm not going to take hitting advice from an electrician, a dude that does this part time during the week and is an assistant JV hitting coach. I'm not. He's an electrician. Why would I take hitting advice from an electrician? Um, that might sound insane, but like that is what it is. If I'm like, hey, this guy played professionally, he had a successful college career, he had a good career, or he's had a coaching career, he was able to, lead successful teams. He had a good track record. He had a, uh, track record, good reputation, stuff like that. Like, man, I was kind of able to trust that. I was a big like, hey man, let me see your track record. Let me see the results. Let me see what you've been able to do, not even in the baseball world, but like in the coaching world. That's how I was kind of able to gauge the trust. Like, man, maybe I'll trust this guy's advice. He was an All American in college. He was an All American in the position that I played when he was in college. Why wouldn't I trust that guy's advice? Or no, he is, dude. He owns a landscaping business, and he's a fucking grinder on the weekends. But like, he'll show up and like, yeah, he's the assistant, you know, college coach. He's a volunteer. Like, dude, nah, you know what I mean? Like, it would be tough for me to trust that guy, at least in the advice that he's given me, whether it's hitting tips or whatever it is, man. Relatability, believing that this dude understands you and your problems. If he's just talking about himself, I mean, man, if you feel like your problems aren't understood, like, hey, coach, I don't know what I need to do to get recruited. How do I get my name out? How do if a college coach shows up to any one of our games, like, how am I going to stand out? How can I get his attention? How can I show up at his camp? Like, if these are legitimate questions and concerns, and like those things interest you, and you feel like your coach, or whoever, whatever kind of coach is like not taking that shit serious, or like values that stuff, why would I trust that guy? Why would you trust that guy? Um, so like believing that you're understood, believing your problems are understood, your goals, if you feel like you're able to relate those things to somebody, or the coach that's coaching you, that's able, you're able to trust that. Track record, dude. If your coach has done it, if he's led a team to a championship, if he's played at a certain level or has certain stats or numbers to kind of look up on, those were all things that would help me kind of trust one of my managers, aside from just like obviously interacting and seeing what that relationship's right like. Um, so like, you can probably trust your coach, whether it's an assistant coach or a head coach, if you know he wants the best for you. So like, if you know that your coach has a genuine interest in your well being, your development as a player. If you're like, dude, I'm gonna show up at practice and I got 2 hours, and I know that this motherfucker is gonna challenge me for 2 hours. We're gonna do some drills that are gonna make me better. My BP is gonna be a certain way. I'm looking forward to going to him. I mean, this dude wants the best for you. You could probably trust his advice, right? If you know that he has your best interest as a player, to kind of maximize what you got going on, whether you're paying him money, or if it's part of a team, a travel team, whatever it is. Like, if this coach has your best interest, um, he wants the best for you. You could probably take his advice, right? You could probably buy into that. You could probably trust your coach's advice if he has a track record of success or has done it. If a dude has this is coming up through the minor leagues. You have coaches that have done it and you have coaches that haven't done it. And when I say that, you have coaches that have been in the big leagues and you have coaches that, some of them have been college. They've played in college. Some of them haven't played in college at all. These guys are some like hitting analytics guys. They'll wear fucking baseball pants and baseball uniforms, but they've never played college baseball. Some of them are like that, right? If a certain coach has a track record of success, if that dude's played in the big leagues, I'm probably going to listen to him. That's just my thing, right? If I saw a coach had 10 years in the big leagues, why the fuck wouldn't I listen to that guy? If that's a Hall of Fame college coach, why the fuck wouldn't I listen to what that guy's got to say? If that guy is an electrician that's trying to guide college athletes and guide high school athletes and give pitching advice, I'm like, hey man, maybe I won't listen to that guy, right? It comes down to like who you can trust. Track record for me was big, right? So I would go through the minor leagues and like I said, man, there would be coaches that have done it, coaches that haven't done it. I tended to trust and believe in the coaches that maybe have done it, maybe have led a team or have had success in the big leagues or have had coaching success. They put their money where their mouth is. Obviously, the game's changing. There's data and analytics and really smart dweebs now that can read computers and like they know what they're talking about. So the game's changing. Obviously, I'm just thinking about track record when it comes to trust, for your coach, right? So this brings us to our next topic: the role of an assistant versus a head coach. Man, so I said one of my guys around here, he had hired an assistant coach, and I guess the assistant coach was overstepping, a boundary or was being a little lackadaisical with the players. Was kind of acting a little bit buddy buddy with the players as opposed to being like a coaching, guiding figure, right? So what does that look like, man? What does the relationship between the head coach and the assistant coach look like, and why is that important? So through my experience, different levels have different rules and different like anatomy of the way like a team runs or the way a coaching structure is. But generally, this has been my experience through literally every rank of professional baseball, right? So the head coach is the authority figure. The head coach, the manager, that guy is the guy running the fucking ship, right? He's the one in charge, and the assistants are supposed to be the supporting cast, right? So the head coach is the lead role, the lead character, and the assistant coaches are supposed to be the supporting staff. They're supposed to, be a little bit more hands on. They're supposed to, be a little bit more maybe one on one, spend a little bit more time, on the ground floor in the locker room with the players. But obviously, there's different dichotomies. There's different attributes and relationships at different levels. But the head coach is supposed to be the authority figure, and the assistant coaches are supposed to be the supporting cast. Um, the assistant coach relationships with the players, for me, were different than the head coach relationship. So at least for me in college, um, in college, my head coach, I was a little closer with my head coaches, right? So I was able to text them and be on that level with them. But usually you'll be a little bit more in contact with your assistant coaches and more on that level with your assistant coaches. Maybe they're a little bit younger, maybe it's their first year in the industry, but they have something to offer. But that relationship may be a little bit more personal as opposed to the head coach. But the head coach is the one given the instruction. It's the head coach's ship. He is the captain of the ship, and the assistant coaches, like I said, are the supporting cast. They are not supposed to overstep or contradict. I mean, dude, why would you be in charge of? I mean, why would you run a Division I program, a professional organization, a team, or a hitting facility, and have contradictory advice? You have a number two or a number three, an assistant coach, a pitching coach that does the opposite of what you're trying to kind of implement or teach to your kids. That's bullshit, right? That's bullshit. That's tough. Man, it's up to the head coach to figure that out, right? That he's the boss of the ship. I say this, man, what happens if the head coach loses the respect of the locker room? if the head coach or the manager loses the respect of the locker room, that it's all hell will break loose, man. If the players don't respect you, why would they go to war for you? Why would they put it all on the line in the bottom of the ninth inning or whatever it is, extra innings, dude? So it's contradictory advice. That's tough. The head coach is the honcho, man. He's in charge. Like that's how it always is, and that's how it is in the big leagues. That's how it is in high school. That's how it is in college. Obviously, there's a supporting cast, man, but they're not to overstep or contradict the head coach and what he's trying to do. Cliff Godwin, so the East Carolina head coach, outstanding, I guess, call it interview episode, whatever it was. I will be uploading that soon. He said that he came up through. I don't want to start like naming off the wrong schools, man, but he's coming up through these programs as an assistant coach, as a hitting coach, catching, all that stuff, and then he gets the head coaching job, and he touched a little bit on what that relationship looked like. He said, when you're an assistant coach, you can hit one on one with these players, and they'll come with you and come grab you for early work or like after practice fungos, whatever it is, but he literally said once he got the head coaching job, right? Once he got that title at the end of his name, his players wouldn't just come find him and ask him to hit, and I get that. So if you think about it, your manager, your coach, the head coach of a Division I program, that guy is making decisions on whether you are going to play or whether you're going to be coming off the bench, and that can be scary, dude. I understand it. I went through it. Why would I want to go work on getting blown up in the cage by 90 miles an hour, challenging myself, but potentially putting myself in a shittier situation with a poor outing or a poor practice in front of my coach? I get it. Also, like depending on what the team needs and what the schedules are, there could be a lot of like moving parts. The coach could be involved in meetings, working with other players, all that stuff. So usually you go to the assistant coach or the position coach, like, hey man, if I'm in the professional ranks, right, minor league, major league, it's like, hey dude, I want some outfield reps, I'll go to the outfield coach. If I want some batting practice, like I'll go to the batting coach, but the hitting coach. So obviously the assistant coaches are a little bit more accessible if you want some like one-on-one individual work. But yeah, that's a real thing. You can go to your manager, your head coach for individual work, but in college, I get how that might differ, and that might you might not utilize your manager or your head coach for those type of things. So I get that. But with that relationship, like as you progress through the ranks, right? So as you go from college, you may have more of a relationship with your manager. You might be able to get like on field early work, all that stuff, like after work BP fungals, all this stuff. But I felt as though as I kept going through the ranks and getting higher and higher, my relationship and work with my coach and manager, like that head coach, kind of lessened, right, as I moved up a little bit more through. Because when you're in, at least in my experience, the manager in the big leagues, he is a little bit more office related, right? So the manager is obviously on the field doing stuff and walking around and watching BP and stuff, but in college that manager is hitting fungos, that manager is in the dirt. He is, doing practice, PFPs, all that shit. I'm not saying the manager in the big leagues doesn't do that, but obviously as you go up through the ranks, there's more and more jobs, more and more front office, maybe business type stuff, transactions and shit. So the manager might not be able to be hands on. So at least in the big leagues, in my experience, like Rocco Baldelli or David Ross. I mean, yeah, they were on field ready for BP, doing anything to help the players, but they weren't necessarily the ones hitting the fungos, right? They're in the office making lineups, doing research, getting prepared, to lead a team and shit like that. College, high school, the managers had hands on, but obviously, dude, that relationship and the dichotomy and like the leadership stuff, like what the manager says goes. The assistant coaches, no matter what level it is the supporting cast, man. They are not the main characters. And I mean, yeah, I mean that's about all I got. It's like there are seasons where you feel like your head coach, your manager, your coaching staff, your supporting staff can get the best out of you, the most out of you, can make you rise up as a player. There are years when you're like, dude, I can't wait for this shit to be over. I hate my coach. I don't like what, is going on, what he's implementing what I'm being taught. I'm not buying in. I don't believe this shit. I'm having a poor year, all this stuff. There's a whole bunch of things that can go into it. But at the end of the day, you respond. I mean, you have a choice on how you can respond. So like if you choose to look at it in a negative light, it's going to be negative. If you choose to look at it like a learning experience or a growing experience or something you can build off of, I mean, that man, no one ever got hurt doing that, man. It's wishful thinking, positive thinking, all that stuff. Obviously some coaches are able to get the most out of us, whether it's you trust them, comfortability, all that stuff. You believe in the team, what you're doing, your supporting staff, what the locker room looks like. Obviously there's a whole bunch of different things that go into it. There's a whole bunch of different coaching styles, managerial styles, all that stuff. But at the end of the day, man, the manager, the head coach, it's his word goes. The assistant coaches, they are the supporting staff, man. There's different levels of trust. Man, for me, track record was big. I like to see what that coach was able to accomplish before he started coaching me. I wanted to know what that motherfucker was doing before he got here and what it looked like. What level did he do it? Was he a player? Did he play in college? Did he play professional? I wanted to know what he did. If I'm like, damn, okay, he hit 340 in college, why wouldn't I listen to that guy? He hit 340 in the SEC in Division One baseball and won a batting title, the College World. Like, why wouldn't I listen to that guy or that coach? That coach has 6 rings. I'd be crazy not to listen to that guy. Does that coach have? Is my best interest? Is that something that he holds dear to him? Like, is he giving me good advice? Does he care? All this stuff goes into it, man. But there's different coaching styles. It's all kind of it comes down to men knowing what you need and just having trust in your athletic ability. And at the end of the day, man, you can decide how you react to certain situations, whether it's positive or negative. But yeah, so we got some big stuff coming out. We still have a couple more Division One college coach interviews. Um, I got Coach Pollard at Duke, Coach Godwin, ECU, Coach Hare at Campbell, Jamie Moyer just did a 55-minute banger with Jamie Moyer, and like I said, we have a coach that just won a World Series ring with the Rangers this past year coming on, and just talking mindset, just talking mindset, giving some inside information to the next generation of baseball players. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. Always a pleasure to talk to you guys. I'll be on here again soon, and man, I'll talk to you guys.